You don't give a lot of aids from your seat. Like if I want my horse to go faster, I don't start like shoving at my horse like that. But that said, your weight placement is super important. All right, hello everyone. So I wanted to talk about your weight aids and how to use your weight to influence your horse and also to give your horse confidence. So when you think about it, like you don't actually do a lot of aids with your seat. The main job of your seat is that it follows the motion of the horse. But that said, your weight placement is super important. So I'm going to start out with showing you how important it is that you stay connected with your seat, because when you aren't connected with your seat, it really affects your horse's way of going. So for example, if I'm gonna trot and then I'm gonna show you at the canter, because I think that's where most of you guys do this. So if I pick up the trot here, I just wait for him to saddle and then up to the canter. And I'm just gonna establish my nice canter, and you see how my seat is really nicely connected to him, following the motion of his canter. Now what happens a lot of times is that your horse might get a little tense, or they might go a little faster, or you might just start to tense up. And a lot of times what people do is that they lean forward and they pull themselves out of the saddle like this. Now, this horse is a really good boy, but if I were to do that on like one of my personal show horses, they would probably go faster and get worried. So it's really important to think about that, and to think about, like, if you feel your horse starting to get tense, you've got to put your weight onto your horse. So like if I feel him like he's getting tense, I'm gonna sit in and make myself heavier in the saddle. I'm not going to come out of the saddle. So the other thing to think about with your weight aids is that, you know, you're probably not super heavy, but you do weigh something. And so where you put your weight on your horse has an effect on the way your horse is going. In dressage, we want our horse to carry more weight behind. So if I want him to carry more weight behind, I'm going to think about sitting a little more back onto his croup to help put the weight back there. If you're leaning forward like this and your butt's flying out of the saddle, you're putting your weight on your horse's forehand. So it's important, I always say, like, you want your horse to sit up and lower their croup. You've got to sit back and put your weight on their butt. And I see that a lot in downward transitions too. Like, people get tipped forward and they put their weight on the horse's forehand. Let me go the other way just for him. So the other thing to think about your seat and your weight aids is that when you're riding a circle, you should have slightly more weight on your inside seat bone, and especially at the canter. So if I'm cantering to the left, I'm thinking about pushing my left heel down, stretching down through my left leg. If your weight placement is not correct, so a lot of times what I see actually on the right lead canter more than the left lead canter. So let me switch directions and go to the right. So a lot of times what happens to the right is that horses lean to the inside. So a lot of times horses like get a little counter bent and leaning like this, and then they push the rider out to the outside. So you see how now I'm sitting to the outside of the circle and my horse is kind of counter bent and falling to the inside like this. So this is an example of incorrect weight placement, and it's really important that you sit to the inside because that's your horse's center of balance. If your horse is cantering on a circle, their center of balance is slightly to the inside. So I would really encourage you to think about this. Is your weight placement left versus right? If you're going on a circle to the right, you have slightly more weight in your right seat bone. Now, I'm not like leaning like this, like that's not what I mean. I'm just thinking about stretching a little down in my right side and into my right seat bone and engaging kind of this part of my leg to keep myself over to the right. The main job of your seat is that it follows the motion of the horse. But that said, your weight placement is super important.